to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I wanted to talk about relationships. I wanted to talk about kind of a combination of steps 4, 8, and 10 for those of you who are in sobriety. For those of you who are not in sobriety, it's really about our relationships with family, friends, our fellowship, and the people around us, and navigating relationships. When I was about 3 years into sobriety, I had this like noticeable turning point where I started feeling an incredible amount of caring, love for the people in my fellowship, the people that were just like me, the people that were suffering like me. Um, I I cared almost as much. I don't want to lie. I'm being honest. I cared almost as much about their sobriety as I cared about my own. Um, I wanted everyone to be successful. I wanted everyone to be happy. Not only did I want to learn from their shares, but I wanted to make sure that I could contribute to their sobriety as well. There was this brotherhood and sisterhood that emerged out of this disease for me, that we were all sick and suffering. And the daily reflection this morning was about it said something like brothers in our defects. And that really hit home to me because as I was attending these meetings, I started hearing the people in the meetings talk about the same feelings, thoughts, behaviors that I was experiencing when I was drinking. I heard people talking about blaming others and comparing themselves to others, being prideful, being resentful, being angry, like all of these character defects, we could share them with each other and we wouldn't judge each other. Nobody walks into a sobriety meeting thinking, maybe they do, they shouldn't, thinking, I'm better than all of these people. I don't have problems like all of these people. Um, what I thought when I first walked in the beginning was that I don't recall thinking that I was better than anybody. I was so miserable that that's the last thing I would have thought, that I was better than anybody else. But I still wanted to find a solution that included me being able to drink. I did not at all um, think about how my character needed to change, that my behavior and my emotions would be impacted by the program and by these steps. I've talked about it a lot lately that what I expected to get out of the steps was only the beginning. It's an introduction to a new way of life. And I heard for many years that this program is a guide for living. And I even said it. But I really am beginning, after 8 years, I'm beginning to see that. I'm beginning to understand that my ability to nurture relationships all started with creating these lists in my program, step 4 and step 8. So step 4 is for me, I translated it as making a list of everybody that I'm pissed off at, and then looking at my role and spotting patterns of behavior and emotion. And what came out of that experience for me was that I had an intense fear of abandonment. And it was an introduction to seeing that I was not a victim, that I actually behaved in a certain way. And I'm not a terrible person, but I behaved in a certain way that maybe robbed other people of their peace of mind. And I shouldn't have, because what was wrong was inside of me. So, and that kind of leads you into step 8, but there's a little work to be done between 4 and 8. So, when I was drinking, I was always looking out there at everybody else's wrongs. And here in my recovery, I'm looking at my wrongs. And it's not for constant self blame and shame or anything. It's for a constant check in, like I talked about yesterday, to be able to right what I wrong right when I do it. Um, and this morning in my second meeting, I was reminded of what the definition as AA defines it is for wrong, what it means to wrong somebody. I, even when I did my step 9, where I made amends to people, I still didn't get it. I feel like I wish I could go back, and I could, I can have these conversations whenever I want to now, but it would have been nice if I understood that a little better, that what I did was I robbed somebody of their peace of mind. Um, and that's just not fair. It's not fair to do that. So that's what I see as what a wrong is now. Um, it is that everybody gets the opportunity to live spiritually. And when I wrong somebody, I'm making them have to work harder at their spiritual practice. And the contrast between what it was like then and what it's like now is that I used to blame other people, and now I'm taking ownership and being accountable for my role. At least I'm trying, and I'm not perfect. I know that. But at least I'm trying, and it feels good to try. I've switched my mindset from how I'm being hurt and how I'm the victim and how, well, she said this to me, and was she probably meant this, and like taking things out of context and that kind of thing. And today I like to look at my conversations inwardly, like where was I selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Like I've been talking about the past couple days with step 10. Um, and then step 8 is the other list, the building a list of those that I had harmed. So step 4 is really, who do I feel like harmed me and why? And then looking at my role, which is a really, really challenging practice, but it just opened my eyes so much to what was actually happening, what was driving my behavior in my relationships. And then after I'm able to look at that and get honest with myself, then step 8 is like, okay, so who did I actually rob of their peace? Excuse me. Um, and it's again, I probably would have done it a bit differently had I understood wrong as or harm as that kind of definition. Um, so I was I was thinking this morning about how much these steps, these lists, and this continuous inventory helped me now nurture my relationships outside of the program, but also as I opened up with this this true intense caring for the people in my fellowship emerged out of that. I think because I began to see other people's struggles and pain and be able to empathize because it's because I felt it before. And I've talked about this before, but I don't feel like I can tell this story enough. There's a woman named Rachel who went to my women's meeting on Thursdays, and I went to a particular meeting and I was about 3 years into sobriety. This is right when that shift happened for me, where I started to feel like the fellowship was family. And so this other Rachel, a fellow traveler in recovery, she was a chronic relapser, and I had just so happened to be romancing the drink that day, which is a dangerous place for me to be. But I was just thinking about what that means is like how great it would be, how good it would feel to have a drink. And so I had gone to this meeting, I was just feeling really raw. And so she shared, and after the meeting, well, she shared, and then afterwards, after her, I shared, and I was crying, and I was like, "Thank you so much for talking about your struggles because I was romancing the drink today, and because of your share, I'm not. I understand that one drink would lead me down a fatal road, could lead me down a fatal road." And so after the meeting, I went up to her and I thanked her again. I said, I know that it's hard to show up, and because I had done it before, showing up and saying I drank is it's embarrassing. It feels shameful. It feels there's feelings of guilt and all of that stuff, and it puts you in a really really vulnerable position to sit in front of a room of people and talk about. It feels like you failed. It feels like you can't do anything right. Like it's a terrible feeling. And so I acknowledged that she probably feels that way, but I thanked her because she reminded me of the danger of picking up a drink. And so she kind of had this like snicker or half laugh, or kind of like she was blowing it off a little bit. And she said, "Yeah, people think I'm gonna die." And she died like 2 days later, or it was only days later she died. And I was just riveted with grief about that. Um, it was it was so terrible to watch that I had this amazing compassion at that point for people that were relapsing. it was it was just really sad. I had to talk to my sponsor about it so many times, and to this day, I mean, it's a story I will always share because it is the reality of the disease that lives within me. That could have been me, and it's just one decision that keeps me from going there. So having this safe place where I can go and get vulnerable and talk and be able to feel like get honest and feel that kind of discomfort and have everybody in the room understand is just beyond words. Like we reopen so many emotional wounds by doing these lists that and then talking about what comes out of it with our sponsor or in meetings that there is a relationship that is unparalleled that comes from being with people who are like-minded, who share the same disease, who share the same pain. And and that crosses over into stroke recovery and vestibular recovery. Like we are speaking a language of shared suffering. We understand each other's sadness and joy and sorrow and grief across the board in recovery. We're all familiar with that terrain. And we even know what to say to each other. It's not like advice, like when we're when somebody comes up to me, I don't know, when I was working and somebody would come in and shut the door to the office and talk to me about something they're struggling with. Sometimes it was difficult to figure out what to say because you want to give advice. And in this like spiritual family, this brotherhood, sisterhood of recovery, I don't have to give advice. I just reference the program, the principles of the program, and remind myself and the other person of how to get back on the beam. It very much is the beginning of the end of isolation. I feel like that is step 5, where I'm able to finally open my mouth and talk about have a gentle beginning to talking about what's going on between my ears and reflecting on my emotional and behavioral patterns, my loneliness and my fears, and and then I get to keep going and do the same thing with step 8. I get to talk to my sponsor and people in my fellowship about, once again, like my anger, my resentment, which can feel a little more intense sometimes. And then again my fears and my loneliness, and try to decipher how to decipher that feeling of being a victim from having a role in it, having a role in the relationship and how it has become what it is today. So then once I'm able to do that, I get to practice step 10 every day. And I talked about that yesterday, those 3 levels of doing a ongoing personal inventory to constantly review how my behavior is affecting other people. Um, where am I avoiding conflict? Where am I leaning in and resolving conflict? I thought this morning, I was like, where do I, it's like walking along a crowded sidewalk. Where am I pushing people out of the way? And where am I dodging people and making sure that we don't slam elbows and shoulders? That's what it feels, that's what life feels like to me. Um, where am I able to just walk side by side with people? Um, and it all requires forgiveness and willingness, making amends, like all of these nuggets that come out of the steps that I get to put in my toolbox is they're just there just aren't words to explain how much they have changed my life, how much I have been able to hopefully stop disrupting other people's sense of security and trust and start to actually restore peace to what might be broken and be able to show up and be present and honest with other people, to be able to just keep my side of the street clean and think about that serenity prayer all the time. Like, where can I make a change? And where do I have to just accept what's going on? Where is in my relationships, where am I making an impact that I can actually address? And where is this out of my control? Um, how how do I care for other people, but yet also live and let live? It's so complicated. Living is so complicated, and I have to have a lot of compassion for myself. That's where it all started, is being able to build like a deeply spiritual relationship with myself and my understanding of my higher power. So, these steps, specifically today, I just wanted to call out steps 4, 8, and 10 because they really have brought me back to being a human being among other human beings and not be so fearful of my own emotions, um, other people's emotions, and build connections regardless of what has happened in the past. Stop hiding from conflict and start healing with other people. And that started by looking inward and then being willing to start communicating what was going on. I had spent so many years beginning, growing in isolation. And it has taken as much time to grow out of that isolation, to emerge out of that isolation. And these steps are what did it for me. So I'm really grateful that I have been given this opportunity for a second chance at living life, I feel like the right way. So, thanks for listening today. I hope you have a beautiful day. It's supposed to be kind of hot. I think I'm going to go out on my deck today, like I did yesterday with my friend. Yes, we had an amazing time yesterday. And I am, I think I mentioned it to you guys. I'm not sure. If you go onto my Facebook page, or yeah, my Facebook, I have been sharing these little stones that I've been painting cartoon characters on and hiding them along my street for the kids that live on my street. And it's pretty funny. Like they're finding them. I haven't seen a child find one of the rocks in live action, but they are. they're being removed in sporadically, which is it's just, I gotta find ways to make myself happy, and this has been making me happy at least this week, and it's been a way to kind of um do almost like an Easter egg hunt with these neighborhood kids because my kids are, grown up now. So it's been really fun. So I'm gonna go out on the deck and paint some more rocks, and we'll see what else the day brings. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.